Thank you, Apostole, for inviting me here. I'm happy to be here. So what I want to talk about today in the very, tight time frame that Apostolos has given us, which is a nice exercise on stress management, is...
All the previous speakers have not managed to overpass the 12 minutes.
Let's see how I do.
Yeah.
I think I'm almost there. But this is now 30 seconds. Okay, talk about the human element and some things, some ideas, basically, that you might be able to use in your own practices in crew management or people ashore. Okay, human element, huge issue, central topic. People have been trying to get their heads around it, both from the academics and the practitioner sides for many years. And the truth is that there's been significant progress in understanding all the intricacies involved in this concept, with several key factors emerging, and not just the sort of individual factors, but lately we're starting to see that there's interconnectedness between these factors, and that somehow they link with each other. So what I'd like to talk about today is the one universal factor that connects all of these, rules them all, and binds them all together, which is the human brain and how it functions. This magnificent organ, which is intricately bound to our central nervous system, regulates every aspect of our being, from very simple, actions to our deepest thoughts and emotions. And it's like the captain of the ship. It's steering us, it's guiding our actions, it's making sure that everything we do is, responding to the situation. And it's only natural that a deeper understanding of how the brain works may help unlock better decision-making and foster effective communication, and hopefully pave the way for more harmonious environments ashore and aboard. Okay, you probably all heard, or if not, it's very common, the iceberg analogy. We only see one very minute, tiny fraction of that's standing above the water, about 1/8. But beneath this, there's a massive structure that moves the whole iceberg. Our brains are a lot like that, in that we are consciously aware of only a tiny bit of what's happening beneath the surface of our awareness. The brain is made up of special kinds of cells called neurons, which have one characteristics: connect with each other and form networks of connections. And the main job of the brain is to regulate all the energy in the body, in the organism. The brain itself is very energy hungry, but it's also extremely efficient, and it knows sustainability. And for the brain, sustainability means that it's able to automate behaviors. Automating ensures that we don't get delayed in all the small things. So to give you an example, this morning, I bet none of you thought about how you're going to put your shoes on, how you're going to tighten your shoelaces, or many of the things that you actually had to do until you got to sitting right in this room. But think of a toddler trying to put their shoes on. It would take them much longer, because their brain would still be forging those networks of connections. For us, the put shoes on network is there, so it's really fast. We can do it and move on to what's important. So we repeat an action many times, and once we've learned it, the network solidifies, the behavior becomes automatic. But as you know, no one's perfect, so this automation has its pitfalls. What I'd like to do for the rest of the time I have is share some insights about the brain and how it works, starting with number one. I don't know if any of you have ever put the wrong shoe on the wrong foot. That's the way we make decisions. If you haven't read this book by Daniel Kahneman, I strongly urge you to dive into it. It talks about two systems of processing information, not biological, but conceptual systems. One of them is, he calls it System 1. Think of it as the brain's default setting or the autopilot mode. It's always on, always there. It's very efficient, it's very fast, it works quietly in the background. And then there's the other one, System 2, which is more deliberate, it's more logical, it's the thinker in us, taking its time, weighing options, thinking of the best outcomes. Now, both of these systems have their own limitations, and both are prone to errors. But generally speaking, System 1 is much more error-prone. It's susceptible to a host of cognitive biases. Maybe you've heard some of them. They've been linked with many accidents and errors in our industry and in the aviation industry and many more, like confirmation bias and all of that. Let me show you an example of the two systems in action. So, easy for you to make this calculation. What about this one? I don't know if you sensed a little hesitation. This is System 2 at work. It's mainly about your ability to stay focused and maintain your attention and make well-thought-out decisions. But there are three key points that you need to keep in mind about this system: your ability to pay attention and make well-thought-out decisions. Number one, that the system is lazy, so it doesn't jump into action unless, it's urgently required to. And that's because when it jumps into action, it uses a lot of energy, a lot of metabolic resources. And when it uses a lot of energy, then it needs a lot of time to recover. And number three is that the system is really vulnerable to distractions. It can easily be derailed by both external or internal factors. So the key takeaways here is that your ability to make well-thought-out decisions and be focused and pay attention and do deliberate thinking is your most important, but also your most limited resource. And you must carefully guard it from noise. Many channels of noise. You talked a little bit about noise. The usual suspects, however, are threats and rewards. And knowing these helps manage them better. Okay. So, all this system processes a lot of information, about 11 million bits underneath the surface of the water. Consciously, we only process about 50 to 100. It's like all the time we're compressing an entire movie into very short frames. And the basic organizing principle of our system is to avoid threats and seek rewards. This should also be the basic organizing principle of every crew management system. Avoid threats, seek rewards. Okay, now between threats and rewards, threats get the upper hand. When threat is detected by our system, the stress mechanism sets off, a host of changes happen in all our bodies, and when we feel safe, then we are able to seek any growth opportunity. So to give you an example, if you may find this interesting, so there is some sort of reward, but if an earthquake was to happen, your system would all be immediately geared up to get out of the room. And when you felt safe, then you might come back to get the potential rewards in this presentation. Now, the funny thing is that if your phone right now, you all have your phones right next to you, and it read Big Boss, you would have a similar reaction in your body. Because the part of the brain that scans for threats and rewards does not differentiate between physical or social threats. Relationships, the importance of relationships is often overlooked, maybe because it's so in front of us. They are key to our survival, they are key to our success. We've only evolved because we are able to forge deep relationships with each other. If this sounds very soft for you, think of leaving a baby alone in a room with some food and some water. The baby would not survive if there wasn't another human being to take care of it. So it's only natural that for our system, acceptance, understanding, all these qualities, which may seem, very soft and social niceties, in reality are vital survival cues. So to our brain, experiences like exclusion, humiliation, unfairness, lack of autonomy, and a host of other factors are perceived as threats. And the opposite are perceived as rewards. And if you think about it, in our time, stress response and chronic stress and all the illnesses that are related to chronic stress is not triggered by threats in the physical environment, but by threats in the social environment. So the key takeaway here is that we need to purposefully manage our social interactions, our relationships aboard and ashore. And this, to a large extent, is about learning how to manage our emotions, because as science shows us, we are deeply emotional creatures. Another very misunderstood subject, the subject of emotions. Key point is to understand that emotions can both guide and derail the way we make decisions. Emotions are not personal experiences. They may feel very personal, that I'm the only one who has them, but they are extremely contagious. Think of big boss being angry or being happy, you would be feeling the same way. Especially in group dynamics like workplaces, leaders will significantly influence their teams in terms of morale and in terms of productivity, not just with their decisions, but mainly with their emotional states. So for those unfamiliar with the concept of psychological safety, I'm very happy to hear about that today. Oops, thank you, I'm done. Almost done. Just, I'd like to show one image that highlights the importance of relationships, for success in the workplace. And of course, let you know that two are the main pillars that you should be working on in effectively managing your people. One has to do with processes that need to be consistent. They are the roadmap, they reduce errors that can be made, they eliminate ambiguity. The other one is relationships. And by relationships, I mean what behaviors you want to measure, what behaviors matter, what behaviors you want to reward, what behaviors you want to develop. And this is the only way that you can actually do something to achieve what you're aiming for. 1 second before I finish, which is a bonus sort of insight, that the brain can grow, it can change throughout our lifetime. So, we're not set in our ways, we're not set in our processes. Important to, utilize our innate ability to adapt and grow and learn. Thank you. Thanks for taking extra time.
Thank you.